Welcome back to Pop Goes the Stack, the podcast where disruption is less of a buzzword and more of a ticket in your queue. I am Lori MacVittie, and I am bracing right alongside you. Really. Now, I'm going to kick this off because our co-host, Joel, decided he didn't want to do it. I'm not sure why. Maybe because he'd get roped into it all the time, but he really does he's got a voice. So you're stuck with me. And
well, thank you, Lori.
Yeah, well, anyway, we're here to talk about uptime today. So uptime, of course, is one of those measures in, boring data centers that, SREs and operations has to worry about because they're measured by it. And it used to mean reliability, right? Availability. Are you, your 5 nines, are you up? But in the LLM era, 5 nines might just mean that your liar is always available, right? Wrong. 5 nines of wrong could be the new standard. So we've seen changes in time for ops and how they're measured. We've gone from actually availability and uptime to things like, hey, let's measure how fast it takes to recover. MTTR is a big thing, especially among SRE and DevOps. But AI is going to change the game yet again. And we think that means it needs to include things like correctness, right? Detect drift, notice when it's lying and going off the rails. So, because it's bad, right?
Yeah.
I'm right. It's bad when they do those things. So you got to reboot them, start over. So, right. Have you turned it off and back on? I mean, it's cliche, but it works all the time. So this was kind of spurred by a paper, again, titled, Are You Still on Track? Catching LLM Task Drift with Activation Probes, which Joel will break down for us because it sounds really lofty, but I think it's really just pretty
simple. It's fundamental.
Yeah, semantic health checks. That's a word everyone should get familiar with, right? Semantic health checks. It's about correctness. So today we brought back Garland Moore. Welcome, Garland.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
After the last episode, he was like, I don't know. So we got him to come back anyway. So let's kick it off. Joel, you want to kind of explain what the paper is saying?
Well, first off, let me start by saying this paper does have a few red lines for me. Anytime a paper starts with a kind of a cutesy thing, a cutesy title, and also includes things like near perfect as a result set, that causes my eyebrows to raise, and I have substantial eyebrows, so there's a lot to raise. The paper, though, if you read through it, it actually makes some pretty valid points. Let me describe, first of all, what task drift is in the context of this paper, because I think it's important to kind of set the stage. Think of this like you're driving down the road and you're listening to the directions coming from your GPS, and you stop and you pick up a hitchhiker. And while you're driving, the hitchhiker decides to enter some new secret routes into your GPS, and suddenly your GPS is no longer taking you to your office, it's taking you to the ice cream shop. That sort of thing is something that can happen with LLMs, where something that is in the information that they are absorbing will change what their normal output mode would be. It'll change the answer in some cases quite dramatically and in ways that you may not expect. And so if you want to keep on the road and pointed towards work, the paper makes the case that what you should do is compare the expected output before you incorporate new external information with the information with the output after the information is incorporated, and see how semantically far apart they are. And it proposes something called activation probing to do that. It's an interesting approach. It's kind of similar in some respects to the judging, the model judging criteria that we talked about in previous podcasts. But it promises decent results, and what's really interesting about the approach is that it uses a simple linear mechanism, and it doesn't necessarily need another LLM to sample the context. It can tell you when you are way out of spec without necessarily expending a lot of energy to do so. So anyway, it's an interesting paper, an interesting approach. Garland, what did you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't know that I'd mind going to the ice cream shop. I like
Yeah.
ice cream, so. But
Yeah,
for the sake of this
nothing says
conversation,
professional than I need a PowerPoint presentation and suddenly you're getting ice cream.
yeah, yeah,
Perfectly
yeah,
professional, right?
exactly. But for the sake of our conversation, this is this is huge, right? Because a lot of organizations or what have you that are implementing LLMs
Mm.
will probably exhaust RAG before they do any fine tuning, right? So if you're pulling informations from external data sources, you need to know what's happening before responses get returned to end users. So this could be huge.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of checking seems to be common. Like, we know they lie, we know they hallucinate, we know there's a thing as context drift, and we hear it in different contexts. Wow, that's becoming a bad word now, right? But just how much they carry, what they drop, what they fixate on, right? Attention
Mm-hmm.
matters
Mm-hmm.
in more than one way. So what they get from reg, you're right. All of these things can combine to give you bad results, and somehow you need to be able to detect that, because it's wrong, right? You do not, hey, we've been up 99% of the time, but it also answers wrong 98% of the time.
Mhm.
You can't have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it's difficult when it's semantics, right? It's because it's words,
Yeah.
new words.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
this is
Exactly.
of course a method to try to prevent what we've been talking about for a long time, which is prompt injection. I mean, that's effectively what
Right.
this is. This is simply prompt injection by ingesting something inside the data that you're getting through RAG that is a new instruction that may be embedded in the content that you're ingesting. Sometimes this can occur maliciously, but sometimes it can occur just because of the type of data that you're ingesting and how it's structured. Like maybe the content has something in it that says, pay special attention to this particular special offer, and it uses overblown language in order to
Mm-hmm.
focus your attention. And remember, everything is around attention on a specific area of the content, and then the weight will shift to whatever is behind that prompting. Think about any of the polemics that you've read. Think about any of the ads that you've read, and when this type of content is ingested, it can change the weights fairly dramatically, and in ways that you may not notice until they happen to you. So
Yeah.
something that can semantically check like this, and more importantly, activation probing works without doing it's effectively running an LLM to analyze the LLM afterwards. It's actually a simple linear mechanism. It offers the ability to do some interesting things. However, I would point out that in the paper, they're still not entirely certain how activation probing really accomplishes this. Um, it's much like everything else in the world of AI. We're on the bleeding edge of this type of technology, and so there's still more study to be done before this is a truly reachable bar for us.
Yeah.
That's
And Joel, you bring up a good point. You mentioned attention, right? A lot of things are based on attention.
Mhm.
And Lori, I think you mentioned
what,
hallucination earlier.
huh?
So
Just, yeah, I went there.
yeah. So we have a compound problem here. AI models hallucinate, and the people that are generating output from these models aren't checking the validity of this information. They put it out there, and then what happens? Our LLMs are using RAG to pull in that information that's already inaccurate. So this can help address that compound problem of we're ingesting information that's already wrong, and then now the adversaries know that, so they put malicious things in that information that the LLMs are pulling in to generate output. So
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
compound
poisoning
issue.
the well has never been easier than
Oh yeah.
with AI, right? Like it's like, oh, I could just like set up entire websites that are just
Yeah,
wrong and let it
Hmm.
ingest it. No, go ahead. You can have it for free. Really, go ahead.
yeah.
Take it, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Absolutely.
scary.
Well,
Absolutely.
we've said it in the past. Garbage in, garbage out still holds true with LLMs, and so if you feed them with bad and unsanitized data, you're going to get bad and unsanitized output, and that holds true even in this particular case. I would point out that the authors of this study have released the toolkit. They call it Task Tracker, which spans, it includes a sample data set and testing instructions, so that you can play with this yourself. Now, I will be perfectly frank, I haven't had time to do that yet, but it's definitely on my list for a weekend activity with a beer in one hand and a keyboard in the other.
That sounds
Nice.
scary. I honestly, well, maybe you need it for sanity, though. To
Oh,
say
sure.
great testing these things because this and the one use case is something malicious has been inserted or something wrong has been inserted. But the reality is that LLMs often hallucinate with perfectly consistent input. You can give it the same question 5 times and it might come back and tell you that glue on pizza is perfectly fine.
Right.
What? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it can happen. So being able to check this, whether it's with this toolkit or some toolkit, right, some method to be able to say, has it lost the plot,
Yeah.
is going to be very important for operations, for businesses, just for anyone using this.
Yeah. Now we've been talking about why the mechanism that's been used to judge the accuracy of this output. But I think you make a really good point, Lori, at the very beginning, which is that the new standard for availability is not just being on, it's
Mhm.
being accurate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to some degree, that has always been true in our space, in the application delivery controller space, that the better health check is not to check to see whether the port is open. It's to check to see whether the output of your API is correct. So writing checks that prove out accuracy is actually kind of the best practice for health checking for availability. And it's good that we just remember that for the days of AI, that accuracy and not just simple availability is actually the game that we're trying to play here.
Yeah, yeah, we
You
have
think they
to.
have something similar for humans? I need somebody to help check me when I'm hallucinating.
Oh
So,
yeah. The first time I read this paper, it was like task drift. I'm pretty familiar with that.
yeah,
Wait, isn't that
yeah,
just distraction? Right. Yeah, ooh, squirrel. Uh,
yeah. You know,
I
one of the interesting things that I noticed when reading this paper is that you have to have access, right, to those activations,
Yeah.
and most foundational models, or probably all of them, don't allow that. So as AI becomes more critical and people want to check these activations, I think it's going to put us in a place to where we have to really consider deploying our own models self-hosted so that we have access to do this type of semantic checking.
Yeah, that's actually
Mhm,
a really
mhm.
important aspect. These checks require insight into the state of mind of the LLM, and by state of mind, I mean the metrics, the actual values of some of
Hmm.
the some and temperatures of some of the settings within the LLM, and they compare the distance between the first activation and the second activation and some subsequent activations. But you're right. Like for a lot of hosted LLMs, you don't get access to that information.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is either going to be something that has to be built into the services that are offered on top of LLMs, or you're going to have to run your own in order to get this approach accomplished.
Yeah, but we see,
Yeah.
at least, right, the research and the data says that's happening. And especially as people move to
Hmm.
agentic AI and they start using more agents to actually automate tasks inside the business, those are necessarily going to be things that they deploy themselves, whether they put it in a cloud hosted environment that they control or on premises in an environment they control. I think that control is the key word and always has been. And it's why we see hybrid multi cloud is normal because they're going to have to do it where they can control it, where they can change, the amount of information they're seeing, the telemetry they get, and so that they can see inside what's going on, because that will become critical. And it starts running important business tasks. You want to know why it's making decisions to buy 5,000 swing line staplers. I need to know, why'd you do that? I mean, I like a stapler too. Good stapler, right?
That's a lot of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
We got a lot of papers to staple.
That's right. Like, maybe that's too many. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I took away from this paper that I think is really exciting is a lot of these solutions that gauge accuracy of output actually have to sit in line, and in fact, they have to process the output itself. This one doesn't necessarily need the output per se. It needs an insight into the state of mind, which means the activation probing can actually be done passively, which is an important distinction to make from prior judge-based systems that we've seen. This can be, as long as you have access to the information about the to feed to the linear classifier, this can be done passively. So again, a really interesting move and some interesting technology that we'll be watching pretty closely.
Yeah, and that's important, because we forget that a lot of the way that we monitor systems, whether they're apps, APIs, or now inferencing, is through health probes, right? We ask, give me this answer, give me this thing, let me check. Are you up? Are you correct? We do those kinds of things. But it's been pointed out to me many times that doing so, especially with AI, can actually impact the state of the LLM by actually like asking it off to the side. You're actually changing things more than you would with a normal system, right? If I send a health check to a normal traditional app, I am opening a connection. Therefore, I am changing the state of the overall system. But it's different than that's not going to make it go wrong. It's just right with an LLM. I could send it off the rails by doing a health check, which then consequently might become another security surface that we have to worry about. Like, is my health probe a vehicle for getting inside and changing things in an LLM? Well, I know I'm sorry I went there too. But...
I'm getting uncomfortable memories of my quantum physics classes back in the day.
And everything is a surface area with AI. It's just everything.
Yeah, Lori, and to that point, when you talk about security, one thing that I thought was interesting with this approach is, people are should be really good at blocking things that they know are bad, right? But what about things that we don't know are bad, right? Can this help us with quote unquote 0 day, right? We didn't know this particular attack was bad for the LLM, but we saw the drift. So we either alerted or blocked the output, right? So I think that's an interesting use case that we have here with this type of approach.
Yeah. Wait. So it could be good.
Yeah, positive security, if you can get to it, is always great.
Yeah. I like it when we're not always like doom and gloom, like, oh, this is terrible, and you're like, no, this could actually be good.
To Joel's earlier point, though, they use the term near perfect. Only time will tell how close to perfect it is. So,
time and a lot of metrics.
All that means is that these researchers have not learned the lessons of Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott. You always underpromise and overdeliver.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Wow. Joel, you always have great summaries and takeaways. What should we take away from this episode?
So I think one of the things that I've learned from this paper is that, like you said, Lori, the definition of available has changed. Availability has changed. It now includes not just is it on, but is it accurate? And I think that that's important. It's an important change to realize, and something that you need to design into your AI use. Another thing that I learned is that this solution actually has real promise in terms of detecting task drift in a passive manner that other systems require a lot of heavy compute in order to do. Instead of sampling things semantically, you're actually using a linear classifier and peeking into the state of mind of the LLM. And that has promised to be fairly accurate, while at the same time not taking a lot of time out of the away from the AI system.
Garland?
Yeah, so a lot of lessons here. I think one thing that really caught my attention was why this is more important than output-based detection, right? So us humans, right, we think before we speak, or at least we should think. Some of us don't think before we speak, but most of us do, right? But if we can catch drift during that thinking process, right? We catch the malicious or adversary behavior before the output actually gets back to the end user. So
Yeah.
that was one thing that I really really caught my attention, and that's why it's more important than output based detection.
Awesome. Yeah, and I took away this, it has security angles. A lot of this is intertwined. I think AI more than anything else is showing how security is really part of like the entire thing. That malicious content could be actually malicious, someone trying to exploit the system, but it could also just be a bad query or a mistake, right? It doesn't have to be malicious. And
Good
being able
point.
to
Yeah.
detect both is important. So security is really becoming intertwined with application delivery concerns in a way that before they were just kind of, well, we're best buds, but now they're like, together, really intertwined. So I think that's important, and we'll see more of that as AI continues to evolve, as organizations build it out and find all the problems. Well, we're kind of at time, so
Yeah,
thank you both, as always,
absolutely.
Joel,
Yeah,
Thanks for
Garland.
having me. Yeah, love being here. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, then that's a wrap for Pop Goes the Stack. If your uptime is still intact after that, celebrate by subscribing. Next time, we'll see what other seamless solutions fall apart under scrutiny.